Audrey. Welcome to the Kitchen Underground, where I'm going to show you how to make healthy, delicious, and relatively quick recipes. Today, we're going to use some of winter's best produce. We're going to make a kale, quinoa, and root vegetable salad with a garlic, ginger, and pumpkin seed dressing. Let's get to know our ingredients a little bit better. First up, we have quinoa. Today, we're going to use the red variety. While most people think it's a grain, it's technically a seed, and one of the most healthful foods you can consume if you're a vegetarian because it's a complete protein. This means, unlike other foods that you have to combine like beans and rice to make a complete protein, this in itself is ready to go. Not only is it high in protein, but also in fiber, magnesium, and iron. Although sweet potatoes are a starch, they're low glycemic. This means that they're going to break down slowly in your body and sustain your energy for longer. They're also really high in vitamin A, which is great for anti-aging. Pumpkin seeds are really high in zinc. While they're good for everyone, they're especially good for males because it regulates prostate health. They also regulate sleep and mood hormones, and they're great for cell growth and division. We're also going to use turnips, a little bit of local honey, some Italian kale, lemon and ginger and garlic for the dressing, and of course some extra virgin olive oil to top everything off. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to want to do is soak our quinoa for about 10 to 20 minutes. This is because it has an outer layer that's really toxic if you don't rinse it off. If you don't have that kind of time, just run it under hot water in a strainer for about 5 minutes. Today we're going to use 1 cup of quinoa to 2 cups of water. This will make about 2.5 cups of quinoa total for our salad. Next we're going to set our oven. We're going to set it to 375, and this is going to be for roasting our sweet potatoes and our turnips. So let's go check on our quinoa. We'll give it a good rinse, and then we'll get it on the stove to boil. In here we have 1 cup of rinsed and soaked quinoa to 2 cups of water. We're going to turn it on to high and bring it to a boil. Now that our quinoa is on the stove and cooking down, we're going to start with our root vegetables. Our oven is preheating to 375, and the first thing we're going to do is give them a good wash. Sweet potatoes, if you buy them organic, I don't peel them because the skin has a lot of nutrients. But if they're not organic, I would recommend peeling them. For the turnips, I'm going to peel them. And how we're going to do it is, the sweet potatoes we're going to cut a little bit thicker so that they have a little bit softer texture. Whereas the turnips, we're going to cut really thin so it gives a good crisp to the salad. When composing a salad, I like to have a lot of different elements. So you'll have the creaminess of the dressing and maybe a softer vegetable, a crisp of the lettuce, and a nice crunchy texture. First things first, let's get our vegetables washed off, and then we'll peel our turnip and start cutting them up. First, what we're going to want to do is cut the top off the turnip and then peel it before we start slicing it. Now that we have it peeled, you can see it's a nice creamy white color inside. So we're going to cut it down the center, and then cut it down that center again, and cut it into really thin chips. See, they're not paper thin, but they're kind of see-through. That's about the width that we want. Once we have our 1 turnip all sliced up, we're going to put it on the pan, slice our sweet potatoes, and then we'll dress them together. Once it's boiling, we're going to turn it down to low, put a cover on it, and cook it for 20 minutes. As I mentioned before, the sweet potato we're going to leave the skin on since these are organic ones. We're going to slice both ends off, cut it down the center, and then put the flat edge on the cutting board and cut it down again. Just like the turnip. The sweet potatoes we're going to cut a little bit thicker, about 3 times the width as the turnips. And we're going to use 2 sweet potatoes and 1 turnip. Once they're on the sheet pan, we're going to dress both the turnips and the sweet potato with olive oil. They're each on their own separate pans though because they're going to have different cooking times. Since the sweet potatoes are thicker, they're going to cook a little bit longer, but keep in mind that we want the turnips to become crispier and the sweet potatoes to be a little more al dente. So we're going to do about 3 tablespoons each of olive oil on each tray, and then a little bit of sea salt, and that's going to be it for the turnips, but to the sweet potato we're going to add about a teaspoon of cayenne powder. You want to get the root vegetables as flat to the pan as you can. You don't really want them layered one on top of another. This makes it so that they'll roast a lot more evenly and they'll crisp up much better. So now that we have these all ready to go, let's stick them in the oven. And the turnips we're gonna cook for about 15 to 20 minutes and check them halfway through to give them a good toss. And the sweet potatoes probably 25 to 35 minutes. While our quinoa and our root vegetables are cooking, we're gonna start in on our dressing. Now, this is a dressing I just discovered and I love. It's a take on one actually from the blog My New Roots. And I put it on almost everything. I'm really into grain bowls, so I combine lentils or quinoa or whatever I have in the cabinet and add some vegetables and a good dressing. So this one is garlic, ginger, and most importantly, pumpkin seeds. But the thing I love about dressings is that they can be very versatile. So whatever you have in your cabinet, you can replace. If you don't have pumpkin seeds, you can use sunflower seeds or even walnuts or whatever nut you have on hand. If you don't have lemons, you could use apple cider vinegar or maybe even some white wine vinegar. And just kind of play around with it, make it your own and to your own taste buds. So for this, we're gonna use 1 cup of pumpkin seeds and we're gonna toast them on a hot pan. No oil or anything necessary, you just want it dry. Before we put our pumpkin seeds in the pan, we wanna get the pan nice and hot. This way when the pumpkin seeds hit the pan, they're gonna start popping, and once they all start popping and blistering, that's when we know that they're done. We don't want to burn them, just give them a nice little toast to add that extra flavor to the dressing. Our pumpkin seeds are looking good. They're getting a little golden brown, they're popping a lot. So let's set them aside, let them cool down, and we'll get the rest of our ingredients for the dressing together. In addition to 1 cup of pumpkin seeds, we're also going to use a half a cup of lemon juice, 3/4 cup of cold water, a big knob of fresh ginger, 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 1 tablespoon of honey, and 1 teaspoon of sea salt. So first, let's cut and squeeze our lemon juice. Then we'll peel our garlic and put it all into the blender together. So it's half a cup of lemon juice, or about 3 medium-sized lemons. We'll set that aside, and then once we pour it into our blender, we'll just send it through a strainer so we don't get any of those seeds. It's been about 20 minutes, so let's check on our quinoa. It looks good. It's nice and fluffy, and it's ready to go. So we're just gonna turn the stove off and put the lid back on until the rest of our ingredients are ready. We're gonna use about 4 cloves of garlic, but this also depends on the size. The ones we have today are kind of small, so I threw in 1 extra. 4 to 5, we'll say. Once you pluck off your clove of garlic, simply set it on your cutting board and using the flat edge of the knife, press down with the palm of your hand. This will crush it and make the skin really easy to peel off. Once you have those peeled, we're gonna add it into our blender with our toasted pumpkin seeds. We're also gonna use a knob of fresh ginger, so about 1 or 2 inches, depending on how gingery you like it. I'm a pretty big fan of ginger, so my taste buds are a little more adept to it. It's been about 12 minutes, so let's check on our parsnips and our sweet potatoes. Maybe give them a good toss and let them cook for another 10 minutes. We're gonna put those in for about 10 more minutes. They're not quite ready yet, but we can finish up on our dressing while we're waiting. What we're gonna do first is we have our garlic, ginger, and toasted pumpkin seeds in here. We're gonna blend these until they resemble kind of a grainy texture. They're not completely pureed, but they're gonna do that once we add our liquid ingredients. Next, we're gonna strain in our half a cup of lemon juice, 3/4 cup of water, 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 1 tablespoon of honey, and 1 teaspoon of sea salt. Then we're gonna blend it up until it's nice and creamy. Let's taste it just to make sure our seasoning is right. I think we're good to go. We're gonna put it in a jar and finish up with our other ingredients. We're gonna wash our kale and chop it really thin, and then check on our sweet potatoes, parsnips, and put it all together. As you can see, it makes about 2 cups of dressing. Our parsnips are ready to come out. They're just turning golden brown along the edges, and they're getting nice and crispy. So we're gonna leave our sweet potatoes in a little bit longer, let these cool a little bit, and wash our kale and get our salad ready to go. Today we're gonna use dino kale. It's just a different variety of kale, and you can use whatever you want. You can even replace it with Swiss chard or spinach, whatever you prefer. And when washing this variety of kale, I really like to inspect it a little bit first because there can be little bugs or dirt that's hiding in the crevices. And as you can see, it's not like regular green kale that's a little bit smoother in texture. There's a lot of places for dirt to hide. So just give it a little bit extra time on the wash, and maybe even wash it twice. Once our kale is washed, we're gonna cut it really thinly sliced. Just kind of bunch it together and run your blade of the knife along it. The last piece to our salad is ready. The sweet potatoes are nice and tender and ready to go. So let's put the whole thing together now. We're gonna add 3 cups of our quinoa to 2 bunches of our kale. Add in our sweet potato and parsnips. Give it a good toss. And next we're gonna add our dressing. We're gonna use about a cup of our dressing, so about half. But if you like it a little bit stronger, feel free to use as much as you want. And this keeps for about 5 days, so it's great on almost anything else you wanna put it on. Let's plate it up and enjoy. And there we go, a beautiful winter salad. Join me again next time at the Kitchen Underground.